All right, welcome back to another episode of Health with Hashimoto's. I am so excited to bring my guest to you today. This is my friend Rachel. Rachel Skinner Fernandez is a nervous system coach. She's the host of the Ditch Mom Anxiety podcast, and she helps moms regulate their emotions by calming their nervous systems. After decades of anxiety, resulted in bouts of mom rage with her first child, Rachel learned the power of healing her nervous system through holistic health solutions grounded in biblical truths and practical lifestyle shifts so that she could show up as a present, joyful mom. And now she loves to help other moms find their own path to healing so they can stop yelling, start laughing, and finally find their calm in motherhood. Rachel, I absolutely love that. And I'm so excited for you to share some stress tips with my audience because we're all dealing with stress, right?
Yes. No, unfortunately, it is something none of us are going to escape in our lifetime, I don't think.
I read a statistic and I don't remember the exact thing, but it was something like we experience more stress in 1 week than like 3 generations ago experienced in an entire year.
Yeah, I believe it, especially with technology and just the things that we're dealing, which, it's like, thank God for technology in so many ways, but then the amount of just mental load and information that we're dealing with, like just that alone and the amount of stress that our bodies go through trying to like assimilate all of the things that are out there. Like it's crazy how much stress we're dealing with on a daily basis.
It absolutely is. Yesterday, it was so crazy. Around 10:30, my internet went out, but so did my cell phone. And they're on 2 different carriers, like 2 different things. So I still don't know how it happened. But for 10 hours yesterday, I had no communication with the outside world. Like my phone was on SOS mode. It took an hour to send a text message to my parents. It was just so crazy. I was really glad that I didn't have any appointments scheduled for the afternoon because I had no way
to like communicate.
Right. So I'm like, okay, so I'm like completely cut off from this outside world. So my stress should have been lower and kind of was. Like I went outside, did all of this non-tech stuff, but at the same time, I was like more stressed because I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's like
It's like nobody can get me. I can't get anybody. And you're like, especially when you're not used to that, right? I mean, it's like you said, generations ago, that would have been normal and no big deal, which, sometimes I wish, but it is nice having a washing machine, I guess.
It totally is.
It's like, but goodness, it's crazy how even I was just listening to a podcast the other day and I was thinking back, like she was talking about how us growing up, what we had cell phone wise, like what we had technology wise, how we were writing papers in like middle school, like with encyclopedias versus our kids now have just information at the touch of their fingertips. And you just go, wow, things have changed. And that's the other thing too, when you think about it, is it's not just technology, it's how quickly and rapidly it has changed. Because, like she was talking about, we were doing papers with encyclopedias in middle school just a few decades ago. And now it's like our kids are never going to know a world without AI. How crazy is that,
Right. Right. And now they have to figure out if they can trust what's on the computer. I mean, sometimes AI and the internet is so helpful, and sometimes AI and the internet is full of lies and hallucinations.
Exactly.
Like figuring out what is true and what is not. And that is in the world of health too.
Like, absolutely. 100%.
All over. Yeah. So tell me more, or tell my audience more about like your journey to covering anxiety and stress.
Yeah.
Like you were open with your rage.
Right. Yeah. And I think that really brought it to a head, but anxiety has been a journey of mine for, as long as I can remember, since the time, any kind of achievement thing was in my probably middle school, high school, where my mom is a highly anxious person. I can see it. It was a generational thing for sure. My grandmother was very stressed and I could see the anxiety in her before she passed away. That is, seen it in my mom. I've seen it passed down to her siblings, my siblings, and so it's very much a generational struggle and health issue for many of us. But I never really thought anything of it. I always just thought I'm an anxious person. Like that's just how I'm wired. I'm high, type A, like I'm a very driven person. I went to law school, it's just really stressful to be a lawyer and it is. But that's just how I'm wired, right? And then I had kids. Well, then we struggled to have kids, and I started really learning about the relationship between stress and health, and like what that looks like for fertility, and how that impacts how we are able to carry, a pregnancy to term, and like how it impacts pregnancy. And so we lost our first pregnancy, and that was just a real big wake up call for us of just understanding how these things worked in our bodies, like understanding my own body for fertility wise, understanding pregnancy, understanding stress, and really having that wool pulled out of my eyes of saying like, I'm not just an anxious person. I actually do have control over how I interact with stress in my life, how I'm able to build my own resiliency to show up in a strong way and, get pregnant, all of the things. And so we made a lot of lifestyle shifts at that point and got pregnant with my first. And then I had her, and for the first time started experiencing like emotional rage, mom rage, what is what a lot of people call it. But like just the emotional dysregulation really came to a point so clearly to me because I was like literally getting mad at a baby, right? I may have struggled with this with my husband or with my family growing up, having seen my anxiety play out in emotional dysregulation in other ways. But when you start realizing you are taking it out on a tiny human that really, obviously has no control over anything, and you're getting mad at a baby, you go, something else is going on here. Like, this can't just be who I am, right? And so that was kind of that next level of like, okay, we've looked at stress, we've looked at kind of the holistic picture of how do we build our health, how do we get healthier to have a baby? But now, like, I'm seeing this emotional dysregulation, and I know that that can't be the end all be all. And as a believer, a lot of it is like, well, you need to read your Bible more, you need to go to church more often, you need to, do all the Christian things, which, not saying that the Holy Spirit doesn't play a huge part in our ability to regulate our emotions and to control ourselves, but also getting to the root of when your nervous system is so taxed out, it has no ability to regulate what's going on in your mind because it's just exhausted. It's on fire, right? You have inflammation all over. And so really that was my second wake up call almost of like, okay, we put some things in place, but there's more I could be doing here because obviously something my body is telling me like, I can't keep you in a normal state. Like the littlest things are setting you off. And that was just a red flag of me just going, okay, nothing's wrong with me, but my body is telling me it's missing something. And so that began the journey of like, well, what is it missing? What can I be doing here? What is the interplay between the nervous system and the thyroid or the nervous system or, the brain and the emotional regulation and our hormones, the hormonal imbalances that all come with pregnancy and all of the things. And then the mineral depletions that come with pregnancy, all of these things. And I just like dove in. It's like rabbit hole after rabbit hole of just learning all of the things I feel like they don't teach us in kind of the traditional medical system of understanding our bodies, getting in touch with our bodies, understanding our hormones, understanding the power and responsibility we have of being able to actually heal ourselves and the body's amazing ability to do that. And just saw a radical shift in how I was able to show up when I was supporting myself in very specific ways, and then started helping other moms do the same thing and went, okay, we've got something here. Like we are missing a huge piece in our lifestyles where we're all running stressed out. We have so many moms that come to me. They're like, I'm yelling at my kids. I can't stop yelling at my kids. I'm so overstimulated. Everything is triggering me. And they think, and they're told by society, it's just the little years. It's just raising kids. It's just being a mom. And I am fully like committed to shouting it from the rooftops that it's not just motherhood. Like it actually is an imbalance in your body. It is probably depletions that you can very easily and simply address. It doesn't take thousands of dollars and thousands of, dollars of work and supplements and all these things. Not that those things can't be helpful, but it's just simple shifts that we can make with our lives. And I just don't want anybody walking through life, especially mothers, thinking that this is normal, that feeling this way is how it's meant to be. And this is just how it is. We just get through the little years and we get through all of this stuff and we just get through it. When really there's another side to that where when you support yourself and know what your body needs, you can show up so much more powerfully so much more joyfully and be able to really, I think, understand yourself in the way that the creator has created us, which is such a beautiful thing, and that our bodies are amazing. And that's something that just blows me away every time, is how incredibly resilient God has created us and how amazingly he has designed our bodies to heal when we give it the tools that it needs to do so.
Oh my goodness. Yes. All of that. Yes. Especially the part where like what is common is not normal. You are not designed to be in this stressed out state. And when everybody says, yeah, just you're tired because you're a mom, or you're stressed out because you're a mom, they know that's common, but it's not normal. It's not how we were created to be. Yeah. Yeah. So like when somebody is stuck in that stress mode, what's happening in the nervous system, first of all, and how does that impact the body?
Yeah. So, if you know anything about the stress response in the body, you've probably heard of the fight or flight response. You've heard of kind of how our body, or you've definitely been through this at some point in your life. All of us have. Or maybe you're like, for example, you're driving a car, someone pulls out in front of you, you slam on the brakes, and you feel viscerally that surge of adrenaline, that surge of cortisol, the super, focus you get. You're able to make quick decisions very quickly to swerve. Like you see everything very clearly. I mean, everything is just on high alert, right? Your body does that very, very well and is designed to do that for a reason, because in those situations, you need to be focused on what do I need to do? In the past, we've talked about like when we were running from a bear, your body needs to be able to run fast, know where to go, like how to fight if it needs to, how to run if it needs to, all of the things. And so your body is going to prioritize those reactions over everything else. And that's a very normal thing. And what's supposed to happen after you have something like the car that pulls out in front of you is that your body surges the adrenaline, surges the stress hormones, and then it comes off, then it takes it all down and it goes back to normal and it goes back to zero. The problem is that we aren't just dealing with things like running from a tiger or a bear. We're not just dealing with cars that are pulling out in front of us. Our body actually doesn't see the difference between that and the email from your boss that makes you really nervous that you didn't do something right at work. You know what I mean? Or, the fact that maybe your kid is screaming as a mom, your kid is screaming and having a total meltdown and you're trying to get out the door. Your body is seeing that as a perceived threat in the same way as it did the car that pulled out in front of you. And so when you have all of these things happening on a regular basis, your body is constantly pumping out these stress hormones. And excuse me, it comes from, the HPA axis is really one of the biggest ones, which is your I can never say all the words right. You probably can say all these words better than I can, but the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis is really what is controlling those stress hormones, right? Well, when it's consistently in that loop of just constantly feeling stressed all the time and perceiving these threats in life, it goes to what we've all heard of probably as chronic stress. And what happens is your body is then prioritizing the stress response and putting on the back burner all of the things that it doesn't necessarily need to be able to swerve from that car or to run from that lion, which are things like your hormones, your gut health, your thyroid, and your ability to actually like get the thyroid. Your thyroid's like, okay, well, I'm prioritizing being able to run. Like I'm not going to go and prioritize my thyroid hormone production because I don't necessarily need that right this second. Well, the problem is there's no time for it to come down from that. And so your body's just burning through all this stress in this chronic stress state. And all of a sudden your hormones are imbalanced on a regular basis. You all of a sudden can't eat things anymore. And you're limited to the types of foods that your body can handle because your gut is compromised. And so you get just kind of a domino effect of all these things because your nervous system is in this constant state of fight or flight. And that really, looking at it from that perspective of like, we just aren't giving ourselves the ability to come down from that stress response is probably the biggest issue of looking at the fact that like stress is basically just a perceived threat. It is I like to say a lack of safety in the body. And that can come from many different things. And so what our goal is really to get back to how do we create safety for ourselves and for our body as well as we can to start kind of combating that response, that constant kind of chronic stress that's wreaking havoc on all of the things in our body that should be able to run pretty smoothly on a regular basis.
Right. So what are some like the simple shifts if we find ourselves like always stressed, or maybe it's just become so normalized that we don't even realize that we're always stressed. What are your favorite simple shifts to build that resilience? And before even building the resilience, to come down off of the stress?
Yeah. And so like, again, like what I said, it's just really to simplify it, always think of like, how can I create safety for myself? And safety can come from so many simple ways. One, eat food. Like when your body is not being fed regularly, especially those moms that are listening right now, like you have a tendency, probably, at least my clients do, to not eat because you're running ragged. You're trying to feed the kids. You're trying to get out the door. You're in this crazy lifestyle where you get to 2 o'clock and you're like, oh, I had a granola bar with my kid today. That was it. That is a huge threat to your body. Your body thinks, okay, food's not coming. And so you're just adding on stress to the already stressed out system. So what's a simple fix there? Eat food. And one of the best ways you can do that is to eat breakfast within 30 minutes of waking up. Because as soon as you wake up, you are giving your body the signal of you are being taken care of. You are getting food, ideally protein, fat, and carb, get it nice and balanced there and get all of the macronutrients it needs. To really signal, again, we're signaling to our body, you are safe. You are safe. And one of the best ways you can do that is by getting up, eating food within 30 minutes to an hour of waking. Because I just want you to look at it as this conversation with your body of, if you were with a child and a child was scared, you would constantly be doing things to help them feel safe in that situation. And you're doing the same thing for your body. And if you're a mom, this is a really easy thing to think about. How do you you don't even think about it when you have a baby. You're not thinking of it like this, but how do you create safety for a newborn? Well, the way you keep your newborn safe is you give them food regularly. You make sure they sleep and they have they're sleeping a lot. You give them lots of love and attention and, affection, all the things. You are a newborn. So it's a really easy way to think about it is like, I am a newborn in this stressed out. I'm scared. My body is scared. My body needs safety. How am I going to create that safety for it? Treat it like a baby. And one of the first things I always tell people is eat breakfast and eat some food, like regularly on a regular basis, because that is one of the best and quickest ways your body's going to realize, okay, I'm safe. Food is coming. We have food here. We're not in like a super stressed out state. Because every time you skip a meal or every time, you don't listen to your body's cues on hunger to the point where you don't even notice them anymore, like that's just, again, building that cycle of stress, perceived threat. We don't have food coming and we're just going to keep building. We're going to start running on stress hormones because we don't have anything else to run on. So that's one of the biggest ways, I think. The easiest simple shifts to make is just to start eating breakfast in the morning.
That's huge. And I know, people talk about fasting and how amazing it is. And every time I've tried it, I think I've tried it 2 or 3 times. And I'm like, oh, no big deal. I can just skip breakfast because when I wake up, I'm not that hungry. And I notice a difference in my stress response. It's just like you said, my body doesn't feel safe. Yep. My stress hormones go up. My Hashimoto's has a flare, or I'll gain weight because of that cortisol. And I'm like, oh, okay. So fasting does not work for me, or at least fasting and pushing off breakfast. Like I have to have breakfast. I have realized that for myself. And, I'm always open to learning from experts about fasting. But I know for myself, I can't skip breakfast. Like, yeah, my body needs it.
That is such a key, Esther, to say is like, it is so important to, like we've talked about, it's hard to see all the different things that people tell you to do out in the world. But what always matters most is what is working for you. And the only way you're going to know that is by learning to listen to your body. And like you said, like that doesn't necessarily mean fasting isn't going to work, but it definitely isn't working in that way. And so like being able to listen and understand like how this is affecting yourself and thinking about the fact that, am I creating safety for myself? Would it be better to maybe eat when the light is up and maybe not eat at night? Because here's the deal. We are all fasting at night. We're all fasting when we sleep. That's just normal. And that is worked into our bodies. But like you said, is skipping breakfast actually telling myself that I'm safe? Or is my body, like you said, telling me in all these different ways that ain't working for me?
Right. Right. So eating, sleeping, feeling loved. I love like picturing a newborn. I can do that so easily. So thank you for that mental picture, because I've had 4. I can picture that. I
Yes.
know what it takes to keep a baby healthy and safe. And when a baby is stressed, they tell you they're
Right.
fussy. Just because I have the ability to not show my emotions doesn't mean that I'm not feeling stressed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, that's kind of a side discussion. Like I was saying, is learning to listen to your body. That takes time a lot. In fact, one of the easiest things I think to do, which helps with learning to build your stress resiliency, is learning to listen to yourself. And one of the things I walk my clients through very often is because we have been so disconnected from ourselves and how we feel, is to just get into the habit of doing like quick body check-ins at least 2 to 3 times a day. And one of the easiest ways to do this is either when you're like doing some, habit stacking. So if you're brushing your teeth, or even if you're making lunch or something that you do regularly during the day, to just tag on a 2 to 3 minute just check-in with yourself of like, do I have to pee right now? Like, am I hungry? When was the last time I ate? Am I thirsty? How is my body actually feeling? Like, am I tense? Am I holding tension in certain places? Am I sore? And, like, how do I feel in the chair I'm sitting in, or the floor I'm standing on? Like, what does everything feel like? What is my body actually feeling right now? And getting into the habit of doing that every single day. I mean, just start with one time. If that's where, if you're completely disconnected from your body, start with one time a day when you're brushing your teeth in the morning, or even just both the times you brush your teeth, in the morning and night, of checking in. And it's crazy because you're going to start, as you start listening and you start noticing the things that your body is telling you, or even your mind is telling you, you're going to start noticing it throughout the day too, because you've started opening up those communication pathways with yourself again. And you're able to start shifting as you hear those messages, as opposed to ignoring them. And then all of a sudden you have a full flare of Hashimoto's because you're stressed. You haven't listened to anything. You're not giving your body what it needs, or whatever else is going on, because you haven't been listening. And so really opening up those communication pathways in a very, very simple way of just learning to check in with yourself on a regular basis can do wonders for your awareness. And then the next step, of course, is then meeting those messages, meeting those requests, and helping fuel your body or give your body what it needs on a regular basis.
That's huge, because we put everybody else first.
Yep.
So acknowledging and then doing, there's 2 different things, Rachel. I can do number 1. I can't do number 2.
Yeah.
when I had kids in car seats, thankfully, like, I love being past that stage, quite honestly. Having no car seats in my car is a beautiful thing.
I do dream of those days.
Yes. But I remember that was one of my first habit stacks of like checking in with myself. Getting everybody out the door and in the car was so stressful that every time I put my seatbelt on, that was my trigger to relax my shoulders, unclench my jaw, because that was like my most stressful part of the day or the week, was getting everybody out the door, getting everybody dressed appropriately and out. Like, I just knew, like, I didn't even have to check in with myself. I knew that as soon as I got in the car, I was already like stressed up to here. And so I knew I had to relax my shoulders, relax my jaw, relax my tongue, take a deep breath. Okay, now we can go.
Exactly. Absolutely. 100%. And that worked great for you. And so it's like, find something that works for the listeners, find something that works for you during the day that you do almost every day, and tie that in and just relax, check in with yourself, and think about, what do I need right now?
Yeah. So what are some of your favorite go-tos? Like, when you notice that you're stressed, like I mentioned, like relaxing my shoulders, jaw, tongue, because that's where I hold my stress, but I'm sure I could be doing way more, and my listeners could be doing a lot of stuff. What are your favorites?
Yeah. My favorite is just to get in the sun if I can, like to get outside and get my eyeballs in the sunshine. And that was actually, that's another like really simple shift to make. It's in the morning, so that can be a little bit difficult to get used to, but getting morning sunlight has been probably the hands down the most transformational like step that I've ever taken to like transform how my hormones show up, how I show up as a mom, how I sleep, like how I eat food, how my body can use food, all by just getting up and spending 15 minutes in that first morning sunlight in the morning. Or even just as soon as you wake up. If you're not waking up with the sun right now, it's crazy, because if you start doing this every morning, you will start waking up with the sun. It's insane how it works. But like just getting outside if you can, and getting your eyeballs in the sunshine for your first 10 to 15 minutes within that first 30 minutes to an hour of waking up is incredible. incredible how it will reset your body. And it's so easy because you don't have to do anything. And so I just like shove my kids outside. I'm like, we're standing outside for 15 minutes and we'll have breakfast. But that's one of my favorite things to do even during the day too, is like if I'm trying to create space in my body. Like if I notice that I'm holding myself tensely, then I'll go through kind of a quick, it's called bowspring, but just kind of like some opening, movements to just kind of open up my shoulders, open up my hips, like all of the things that I tend to like hold my tension in. And then if I can, I will move myself outside as soon as I am feeling any kind of stress or overwhelm or overstimulation. It's just to get in the sunshine, because it has such a powerful effect on our cells and our ability to just take in that light and reset. If I can ground, even if I'm like in my room, if I can't get outside or if I'm somewhere else, if I can get on the floor, get my whole body on the floor, even just sit on the floor, that is so calming to me and so calming to most, to just have that body connection with the ground, even if it's in your house. Great if it's outside too, but like just kind of having that. Let me think about it. Like a baby, when you hold a baby, you're really touching all of the areas of their back. You're really giving them that input on their skin of like being held. And the ground does that for us too, of being able to just lay down. There's a reason that we lay down and we feel like held. So yeah, those are my favorite go-tos, is like creating space in my body through some quick bowspring movements, getting outside in the sunlight, and then laying on the ground, whether ideally outside, but even if not inside, just getting grounded, getting something to kind of feel like I'm being held, and then taking some deep breaths.
Yeah, I love that. And it's April. So in Minnesota, I can now do that.
Sun is coming.
I had I washed all my bedding yesterday. I put it out on the line. Oh, it was so nice to be out in the sun. I did not get on the ground. I thought about it. But we have a lot of chickens, and I didn't really feel like looking for an area that was free of chicken poop.
Yes, we used to have a lot of chickens too, and it was a little bit more difficult.
Yes, now. Yes. But one thing that I think of when you're talking about all of this, my brain immediately says, but I don't have time. But then I think about my phone, and when I am stressed, I know that one thing I'll do if I'm procrastinating because of stress, or, just wanting to shift my perspective, unconsciously, I'll reach for my phone and I will scroll. Yep. And instead I could go outside. Like I do have time. I
literally
waste
5
time
minutes
on my phone. Yeah. Yeah. You're not saying like change your life and move out to go be a hermit. You're just like quick, go outside. I love that.
Or even if you can get in front of a window that you can open up enough to get the sun on, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. The thing is we can tell ourselves, I tell myself this all the time, and I have to have this conversation with myself all the time. Anytime I'm trying to implement a shift into my life that is going to really resource myself from the ground up and add in that safety for my body, your brain does not want you to change. It wants you to stay in where you are. And it is just how we're wired. And we have to understand that about our brains. And the truth is, you can tell yourself all day long, I don't have time, or you can say, I'm going to take responsibility for myself and I am going to make it happen. Like I am going to find the time that I know that I have because I'm spending it on something else. And so it's not easy, but it does require us to take some responsibility for ourselves. And this is a journey I've been walking with myself for probably the last couple of years, on just really not arguing with my brain, but like not always listening to what my brain is telling me initially. Because when you start getting a little bit more aware, like you said, of, okay, I don't have time, but I'm going to go spend 15 minutes scrolling because I want to avoid something, where I could go avoid something outside in the sunshine. Let's just do that instead,
Yes.
Or like if you're a mom, I know that this for me was a huge thing. I would get up in the morning and grab my phone and scroll instead of getting up, putting a pair of shorts on and walking outside. And even if you have to convince yourself to get outside by scrolling on your phone outside, do that. Like get yourself outside in the morning. Like just do it. Like find, just make it happen. And if that means putting your shorts on next to the bed, just having a robe that you can throw on so you can walk outside, whatever can make it as easy as possible in the morning for you, take the responsibility to make it happen. Because I promise you, when you start doing these things, and it doesn't just have to be the morning sunlight, it's things like the eating breakfast. Like I have so many moms like, well, I don't have time to make breakfast in the morning. Okay, what can you make that's a grab and go?
Yep.
There are 1,000 things. You can grab a yogurt and that's got protein and it's got probably not fat, but it's got carbs, it's got protein. You can probably throw some fat in there somehow. Like it doesn't have to be complicated. We want to make things complicated. Our brains are going to tell us that things are too complicated and too hard. It's really not. They're so simple. It's so simple, but you've got to get used to like, I've had to get so used to being like, that is not the truth. My brain is trying to convince me not to do this. It is not as hard as it's making it out to be right now.
Oh my goodness, that is the truth. Like, our brains want to stay stuck, even if we know that we're stuck in an unhealthy way. Yes. Somehow our brain is like, oh, this is just better than change. Like, right. No, I love that you said we can argue and know the truth.
Yeah. And you know, like, and grace to our brains. Like the thing is, our bodies have figured out how to keep us safe with what they have to work with.
Yeah.
And so it's done the best it can. And that too, it is safety. It has built safety. But now we're at a point where we're like, okay, this type of safety is not serving me anymore. And I am ready for the next level. And that requires a little bit of growth and your body ain't used to it and it doesn't really want to do it. But at the end of the day, we have to be able to recognize with love and grace and say, our bodies have been amazing at doing what it needs to do to keep me alive, because that's what our bodies are amazing at. They will do it. They will keep you alive, running on empty. And other things may seem like they're falling apart, but it's doing that for a reason, right? Like it knows it can't function everything and keep you alive. So it's going to keep you alive. And then it builds almost this safety that becomes comfortable, that becomes the regular, like every day of like, this is how it's learned how to operate. It knows how to operate in this way, and it doesn't want to change. And great for our bodies for figuring that out. But all right, it's time to strap on our bootstraps and get to the next level of safety that maybe is a little bit more resilient and a little bit more enjoyable without, you know, the flares and the discomfort and the crappy hormones and all of the things that are going on, because it doesn't have to be like that.
Right. Rachel, thank you so much for sharing all of this. If a listener could only remember one thing from this entire conversation, what is the most impactful thing that she should remember?
I'm just going to go back to creating safety for your body. Like, I mean, truly, when you break it down, if you can get that simple, like, what can I do right in this moment to create safety for myself? That could be something like deep breaths. It could be something like going in the sunshine. It could be something like, what can I do to create safety? Okay, I am going to feed myself breakfast. But if you can go back to that idea of, I'm feeling overwhelmed. If it's a moment of like overstimulation, overwhelm, like, you know, you're spiraling, ask yourself, what can I do to create safety for myself in this moment? Deep breaths, and, you know, get on the ground, any of those things. Or if you're looking at your life and like, I'm sick of feeling like this, I'm sick of the stress always impacting my day-to-day life, of feeling rushed, of just living a life of stress, then it may be a broader question. But what are the small steps you can do to create safety for yourself? How would you do it for a baby? What's one step you can do today to create safety for your own body like you were a baby? And I think that just keeps it simple.
Yes. And we need simple. Thank you.
Yes.
Where can my listeners connect with you if they want to go deeper and learn more and continue the conversation?
Yeah, well, I'd love to have you. My favorite place to hang out is my podcast. So I have the Ditch Mom Anxiety podcast, where we talk all things anxiety and nervous system regulation and just mom rage and all of the things. If you're mom, it's definitely a great place to be. We're always talking about simple shifts we can do to just holistically take care of ourselves in a society that is constantly telling us more and faster and all of the things that just kind of feel like overstimulating on top of having children. And so that is the place where I love to be, and I would love to have you over there and come listen. But that's where I hang out the most. I am on Instagram at Coach Rachel Fernandez, but I'm not very active on there. So the podcast is the best place to find me.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Esther.
This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Please discuss any concerns and plans with your trusted healthcare professional. If you found this episode helpful, will you please share it with a friend? I'll see you next week on the Health with Hashimoto's podcast.